Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
Hello. What is up, guys? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Wednesday, March 19th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
Yep, day early threw you off there.
I know, yeah. It's it's a couple things at play here this week. One, it's amazing when a track has their entries and not only entries but odds and everything you need all week, really. And so, I mean, we're like, well, what the hell? Secondly, I'm not on spring break, but my kids are on spring break this week, and so I'm taking them kind of on a mini vacation starting tomorrow. So I was like, hey, let's just knock it all out. And of course, I mean, we already have it. Let's talk about it.
Yep. I would motion to move it to Wednesdays permanently, to be quite honest. I think it's better on Wednesdays.
Well, if I'm okay with it as long as every track participates. Like there's occasionally the times when we don't have something by Wednesday, but if it's available, I see no reason as well.
It's becoming less and less of the case. There are a few, like the Tampa Bay Derby, we couldn't have done because it's Wednesday that it comes out. But thankfully, that list is shrinking of tracks that wait until Wednesday to draw cards for Saturday. And that is the beautiful thing about it. And look, Gulfstream Fairgrounds is a week ahead. Well, Gulfstream is too, for that matter. I don't even need a week, but how about Monday? Monday's the cutoff. Don't do it any later than that. So
yeah, I mean,
and that's the way most tracks are.
Well, why wait? Like, is it that hard to get a group of horses together and like get entries? I don't know. It just seems I think we're asking too much sometimes in racing. Yeah. So this weekend, obviously, huge weekend here, and the next 3 weekends are going to be huge weekends between. The 100-point race is kicking off, and we got 2 of them this weekend, including the main event, the Louisiana Derby, which is always a big time race. But before we get into any action, let's talk about the worst part of what we've seen lately, and that was last weekend in the Virginia Derby. I mean, it was a Derby prep, so we got to at least mention it. One of the worst Derby preps I've ever seen. Like, it was. Like, it's funny that it was the first time it was like oh, the Virginia Derby now is a prep race, and like it's on the dirt and it's cool, and then you're like, oh, that's why it definitely shouldn't be.
Yeah, American Promise found a field he could bury. That was interesting. Look, I think if you're in the American Promise camp, you got to be like, wow, that was a really good effort. Like, we're super pumped by that. And then everybody else, it's just like, what happened? Rapture basically ran in place. Getaway Car just went backwards after about 6 furlongs. But the rest of the horses behind Getaway Car were so lackluster that he still was able to finish 4th, despite the fact that he really stopped running pretty early in that race.
Yeah.
And that was kind of to me, that's the main thing. You watch Getaway Car and you've watched enough races. Like, you could tell about 6-7 furlongs into the race, it's like, oh, no. He doesn't want to run today. It happens. That's fine. You expect him to run like 8th, but then you look up and he got 4th, and it was close. He almost got 3rd. So
I know
that shows you that just nobody did much running beside from the winner. The winner ran a very good race.
In fact, it was, it was like midway down the stretch, you at least thought, shit, is he going to like hang on for second? Like, is he, because like no one's really doing anything, Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, Lucas winning that is still somewhat surprising, but it's Lucas, so you're like, yeah, I mean, that happens from time to time where he is one of those horses. It just happens. It's the bigger shock was just the fact of so many of these horses did not, like you said, did not even run a step. And I mean, we're sitting here, we have a lot of races, at least 3 weekends of races to go, the 100-point races, but Getaway Car is sitting there at 46 points in 8th place right now after that quote-unquote effort, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to run him in the Derby. Like, there's no way they should, but 46 points will get you in. And I think that kind of goes to show you kind of the issue we still have to work through with the Derby point system.
Yeah, I do think that he's got enough to get in if he wants to run. I don't know what they'll do with him after that. It certainly looked like he was kind of a tired horse. But I mean, it'd be extra time off if they try the Derby now off of that one, so that's good. Look, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I saw anybody that really belonged to the Derby in that race, aside from the winner. But really, that horse hadn't looked like he belonged to the Derby until that race. So it's one of those things. Again, I think you do have to credit the winner. Yeah, American Promise ran a huge race, and you got to give him credit. But at the same time, we've seen that horse against better and not do well at all, really. So it's hard to kind of back him once he gets out of that race and into something different. And you compared it to the Sunland Derby, the old Sunland Derby, when they used to run it, in March, and it felt like that after the race. It's like, okay, good race, but probably a cut below.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we'll talk about it here in a second with Caldera, and is that one of those races that with Getaway Car obviously beating Caldera in the Sunland Derby that you mentioned last out or prior to that race? Is there anything about that where you're like, oh man, no, like that's not a good look for Caldera, or was it? To me, it felt like it was beyond bad. It's like that. Well, that's not the same horse that was in the Sunland Derby.
Yeah, no, I don't think anything of it, to be quite honest. I think if Getaway Car would have ran like that in the Sunland Derby, Caldera would have won by about 4 or 5 lengths. So, no, I don't hold that against Caldera at all. Obviously, it would be a better sign if the horse won or ran really, really well and got second, but we've seen enough of Getaway Car to know what he looks like. On every race except for that one is it's been good, or even the one turn races were you could almost say they were great, but that wasn't his normal. He wasn't ready to run. And look, they had been talking, hey, we're going to send Gaming, and then Getaway Car goes, and I don't know how much of that is trainer speak or how much of it is, well, Gaming had a little issue, so let's just throw Getaway Car. He's doing okay, So I don't think any of the races this year they've done the proverbial where, we're working backwards to that race with him. I feel it's just like, well, he's ready to run, and the horse we wanted to send isn't, so we'll send him type of thing.
Well, clearly he wasn't ready to run because
No.
it wasn't good. So we'll see what he does. Again, he's got the points. I would advise him not to run in the Derby. Seems like a Pat Day kind of horse, maybe, or even shorter. Honestly, I think he is a pretty decent horse. I just don't think. The only thing I could say is that he might be in the Derby is if it's strictly for pace situation, for blocker / setup. You know what I mean? That would be the only reason I would see a reason why they might enter him. But I don't feel like it would be doing the horse much justice getting him in the race.
I think the problem with him is I think he's kind of an in-betweener a little bit for what distance is really going to be his absolute best. And I think he's just a small cut below no matter where you put him, unless you go the route that they've kind of went with him, Sunland Derby, Virginia Derby, go up to Iowa, go to West Virginia, and try to go to the kind of the B circuit of derbies, which is fine and nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of what I would think would make sense for him. I don't know what they'll ultimately do. But you say, hey, he's a Pat Day horse, but I don't think I would bet him in the Pat Day, just thinking about what that race usually is. Yeah. But, maybe he catches weak field or whatever. But I don't know a real good spot for him to go next because, like I said, he's kind of he's a good horse in a really elite barn. And so he kind of, I don't know where he fits into that whole situation out there.
Well, after a performance like that honestly the horse was bad and quit, I would have a hard time backing him in any race next out. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it's a minute before we see him again. It's one of those efforts from where you're like, maybe something went a little haywire and the horse might need a little time. You know what I mean? And then given the rest of the Baffert barn, there's absolutely zero reason why that horse rushing back and makes any sense.
Right.
So to me, it's I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him for a couple months.
Yeah, I could see that. Like I said, where's a good spot for him, and that's kind of work backwards from there, try to pick out a spot and get him ready for that. That's probably what I would do with him. But again, I don't think the Derby is his best fit.
Well, let's talk about some Derby horses potentially, as last weekend really maybe wasn't it. But today's show, I think we have a few, Halterman. We're going to preview and get picks for the $1 million TwinSpires.com Louisiana Derby at Fairgrounds. It's the first 100-point prep race for the 2025 Kentucky Derby. Then we're going to give some rapid-fire selections for the remaining major stakes races, including Kentucky Oaks prep races at both Turfway and Fairgrounds. None of the Oaks winner in one of these, honestly. And then the Jeff Ruby Stakes. That's right, another 100-point prep race for the Derby. Let's go. Yeah, I feel this horse might be the Oaks winner this weekend. Really.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the big contenders for it, if not, the one.
She looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has over and over, but
mm-hmm.
but you never know, I guess. Saturday at Fairgrounds, race number 12, the TwinSpires.com Louisiana Derby. It's a grade 2 worth $1 million. Going 1 3/16 miles for 3-year-olds. And of course, this is a Kentucky Derby prep race, the first 100-point prep race of this season. 150, 25, 15, 10 for your top 5 finishers. Really, depending on who you are, your top 3 have a very good chance of getting into the Kentucky Derby gate. Certainly your top 2 finishers of the race. Halterman, we look here. Field of 10, John Hancock, the horse that was going to at least originally run last weekend in the Virginia Derby, probably would have won. I mean, who knows? But Brad Cox opted to scratch there, run here instead in obviously a much bigger race, a longer race. John Hancock is your 7-2, very lukewarm favorite. Pratt comes along as well, but built at 4-1, and Caldera at 5-1, 6-1 on instant replay. The other Brad Cox. It's a salty little field. I don't know. We're going to find out a lot how salty it is, but it should be a fun race.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun race. I think it's interesting. Usually we get to these 100-point races and you do kind of have a feel for, okay, this horse I think is pretty good, or at least a couple of horses that have really established themselves. And here we are at a 100-point Louisiana Derby, and it's still more questions than answers and still more proving to do than here's some proven horses against some that are trying to kind of make that step up. And so that is a little bit unique. A part of the problem has been the fairground circuit has been a pretty weak, and injuries were a problem. Of course, Magnitude gets hurt. That's a big problem. Disco Time also gets hurt. Who knows when he'll be back? So a couple of their winners have not gone on to run again in the circuit. So you're left with Built, a horse that won the Gun Runner and then has just kind of hit the board in the other two. So with that being said, John Hancock takes his shot here, and I think he is the one to beat. Interesting the situation we have where Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt together have been horrific on the Derby Trail this year, surprisingly. But this could be the one. Loved his race last time out. Lightly raced horse, was able to fend off Owen Almighty, who had a lot of experience. And as we saw, he's getting better and better. He won the Tampa Bay Derby. That was a great sign for John Hancock. He should move forward off of that race as well. So I'm a pretty big fan of John Hancock in this spot.
By the way, Brad Cox has to be, I mean, like, he's turned into such a, like, where is Disco Time? And because he continues to tell people different things. Like, there's reports that he's doing great. He's going to be aiming towards the bluegrass. His next work will be next week or whatever. And the horse is just not there. He's gone. And, even as late as last weekend, there was, I guess it was like a week ago, let's say, he was, they were reporting on like FanDuel that like the horse was aiming for the bluegrass, and it's like the horse still hasn't worked since, the last race. And so he's either doing the biggest, like, we'll look over here while I do this over here kind of situation, or the horse truly has major issues that they can't figure out. But that's a whole other subject. John Hancock is in the race. Honestly, dude, I'm with you. Like, whenever even after he won the Sam Davis, I was kind of like, all right. Like, I didn't feel like he was a major player. I mean, maybe he could be, right? But not at the time. And now we're sitting here saying, well, this is Brad Cox's horse. This is the horse that's in the Louisiana Derby. He should win. We know what he does with these horses when he brings horses here. And so I don't know. Like, I think he's got a good chance to win. Having said that, knowing all we knew at the time of February 8th when John Hancock crossed the wire first to Sam F. Davis, I wouldn't have sat there and been like, well, that's the Louisiana Derby winner.
Yeah, I also wouldn't have thought the Louisiana Derby would come up light either like this. I mean, it's pretty. Look, I like Caldera quite a bit as well. We'll talk about him, but so John Hancock and Caldera are, I think, are the two best horses in the race. They have proving to do, both of them. They both definitely have proving to do. And then, like, who's next? Like, Built, we kind of have a good barometer where he's at. Chunk of Gold, Tistastic, Vassimo, even Instant Replay. They're just, it's a lot of more questions than answers from those horses. So that's the other part of it. I mean, I think if, Sierra Leone, well, he was in the Risen Star, but even Catching Freedom, if Catching Freedom was in this, I think I would pick him to beat John Hancock, but he just has kind of caught a field that isn't just great. And he just seems to be the horse that's doing the best right now for Cox. And that race came back strong that he was in. So he kind of just falls, as the pick, kind of a default pick here almost.
Yeah. I mean, Shelly, no, I don't. John Hancock hasn't missed any workouts. Not that I'm aware of. Looking at the workout reports, it worked last on a couple days ago.
Yep.
March 16th, March 8th, March 1st. So yeah, he's not missed any works.
Nope.
They just opted to run. I mean, the scratching had nothing to do with him having issues. It was just strictly we wanted to run in this race versus that one.
I don't understand why they entered him at
either.
Virginia. That was really odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Because he was never, ever, ever intended to run there because of the jockey that they named. Like, and that's not any offense to Mike Smith, but Brad Cox is not putting Mike Smith on this horse ever in a billion years. So
no.
It was just odd. And like, as soon as the entries came out, I saw him, but I didn't see the jockeys. And I thought, well, maybe they're going to run him here. And then I saw the jockeys, Mike Smith. I was like, why waste everybody's time? It was weird.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about the horse that it's probably going to be. I mean, honestly, he's probably going to go off second choice, if not close to favoritism. Let's be honest. And that's number 5, Caldera. And it's not necessarily because of the horse, although I do like the horse a lot. It's my racehorse, and we know what my racehorse does to both our page views and with the odds. And we see it all the time. And Caldera obviously deserves to be a horse that's bet. And I think we'll be bet even harder because of that. 5-1 on the morning line. I don't think you're getting anywhere close to that. But this is a horse that just to me looks like a horse that's going to absolutely love going a little bit longer. He just the way he ran that race last out, the one when he broke the maiden, the 2 back. He just, he's been a horse, but they've ran at a mile 16, 3 in a row. Feels like a horse that is going to like to go a little bit longer. I think he's going to track that a nice setup off of that off of John Hancock and kind of get first dibs there. He showed last race to Getaway Car in that Sunland Derby that he can sit off and really make a run, and he damn near won the race doing that. Then the other thing too, man, is like you look at these last 2 works. Like, when was the last? I mean, this horse is like bullet after bullet. It has like 3 bullets in the last 5 workouts. I mean, you don't necessarily see Lucas horses running bullets over and over again. This is a horse that's ran 5 furlongs at Oaklawn Park and 59 flat twice in a row. Like, he seems like a horse that's itching and ready to go.
Yeah, and he's figuring it out. He's learning how to be a racehorse. That's the big thing about it. And you could see the progression. First race for Caldera, obviously it's the coach with the first out horse. It's not going to go well very often. And it was 6 furlongs. That's not his distance. Got a little bit better in the next start, but not great. And then the light bulb came on. Third start was very good. And then, of course, Sunland Derby was good as well. So lot to like about him. A lot of improvement in these races. Should improve again. You hit it. The distance is going to be just fine for this horse. We're going to be okay there. You know what? My kind of like my biggest. You're going to think this is crazy, but coach doesn't usually win when they look like they're ready to win. He wins when they look like American Promise. And that, I swear to God, to everybody listening, my biggest worry, if I owned a little piece of Caldera, it would be that. Because there's all the signs are there that Caldera at least should hit the board, right? Maybe John Hancock's really good and he just can't beat him. Maybe not. That it could go either way, or whatever. But he should 100% hit the board in this race. He should 100% show up with a really good race. So he'll probably not, because I can't ever get. I love Lucas. He's one of my favorite trainers of all time. I never can get his horses right.
I know, and it's like, is it because I mean, there's obviously all kinds of examples of horses of his that have ran well as favorites and lived up, but it's because I feel like of all the long shots and the times that, like you said, like last weekend, case in point, that you're like, I'm with you. It's the same thing. It's like, do you really feel confident? It's like you would almost rather Caldera be 15-1 in the race, and not or lose here and then he wins the next race, right? At 20-1.
Yeah.
Having said that, anything less, he's got 10 points right now. So a third place effort would get him at 35. That'd be borderline.
Yeah.
So it would be tight. So, which, by the way, another reason why we claimed him, he'll run again. So if he gets 35, we'll look for him in the Lexington or Bluegrass.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, anything less than a showing is a disappointment from him. Like, just based on the field alone. Like, I think, like, sure, John Hancock beats him. There's no shame in that. Like, if John Hancock is the John Hancock, that kind of looks like he could be, then get second, get third at the worst. You know what I mean? But if you don't show up at all, that's a huge disappointment.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and again, some of these horses aren't bad that I'm going to list off, and some of them are capable, and I think distance will help a couple of them. And I mean, they're players in this. But if you have got Caldera, you've got to be able to beat a Tistastic. I'm sorry, you've got to be able to beat a Built to get. I'm talking about to get excited for the Derby, right? These are Vassimo. You got to be able to beat them. You just have to Hypnus. Got to beat them. And again, everything that I see on Caldera says he should beat them, and he could run the best race of his career here, and it would not be surprising at all. So I'm pretty darn high on him. I'm just like you. If John Hancock wasn't here, pretend John Hancock ran in Virginia, Caldera would be my pick in this race. And I mean, from all the things that I see on paper, I'd be fairly confident in him. I really would. But again, sometimes, Lucas, when they look like this is when they don't run well. And when they look like American Promise, that's when they win. So we'll see.
I know. I like the fact that not to say that Bejarano's a bad jockey, but that T-Gaff has gotten them out here. Like, I think that shows you that he's not shipping in over here to get run off the board, right? He's in with a shot, and obviously potentially looking for a Derby mount as well. And so I think that's a big sign as well. So I really like Caldera. I think John Hancock will set the fractions. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he's in the lead as a turn for home, and I could see Caldera kind of on his throat latch basically, and then we'll see who's the best at that. But I think it's going to be a hell of a race. Let's talk about so I've got Caldera, you've got John Hancock. We both like both. I mean, I like John Hancock as well. Depending on the odds, I think I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm committing to playing a win bet on Caldera, because I'm not sure on the odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Caldera is 3-1 and John Hancock's 5-2, I mean, I might go John Hancock. As far as a win bet, I think if it's that close. So I think you got to look at these odds very closely as we get close to post. Wouldn't you agree? Like, are you concerned about how? We make a living off of giving people bets and how to bet them. But the problem is we have to give them out on Friday night and Saturday morning. and we don't know what the odds are going to be like. So how would you kind of advise people playing this race as far as the odds go?
I think you got to project that Caldera is going to be lower than what you might want to play him at in the win pool. So what I would do if I'm sitting here right now and I love Caldera and I'm trying to kind of get my wagering strategy, I would play a double into Caldera because they're going to bet in the win pool, but the daily double pool probably won't get bet quite as hard. And you might get the real odds / value on Caldera playing a double, or, even if you wanted to do a pick 3 ending with him, stuff like that. Those kind of bets will not get hit quite as hard. But, if you like Caldera, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. Because I do think he's going to be like 3-1 because they are so high on this horse and they love him. And he's a horse also that's easy to love for like the general public because he's a big, gray, beautiful horse.
Yeah.
He's just going to get play. They're going to gravitate to him. So he's probably going to be, a couple of ticks lower than what you want him to be on the tote board.
A good opportunity here is, so again, this is the last race on the card, but the race prior is Fairgrounds Oaks, which we'll talk about here in a second. I mean, we'll talk, not to give it away, but Good Cheer looks like a pretty damn clear single to me.
Yeah.
Good Cheer into Caldera might be an option as well to kind of, if you want to juice out that, if you're afraid Caldera is going to be bet too low to win, that might be a good option to play the doubles. But that'll be interesting to see what those double payouts look like as well in race 11.
Yeah. Yeah, that's would be a pretty good wager if you do like her. You're going to have to try to create value on her as well. So maybe that's the way you do it.
Yeah,
you can buy them and try to create value on both of them. I mean, there's ways around it. But look, I'm excited. I think my racehorse is great. I think getting more and more people involved is great. I think I wish we had 100 my racehorses and 10,000 of you guys out there. That'd be great. I mean, we need people in the game. So I love that they're excited, but yeah, I mean, you do have to kind of build that in to your factors. Like, look, they're going to bet this horse. They bet all their horses. This is their darling right now. And he's going to get bet. So try to work around it.
It's worth mentioning as well, guys, prior to the kind of the kickoff of the stakes action, or at least the greatest stakes action on Saturday, is race number 9, the New Orleans Handicap. We won't talk about it here, but it is in the betting Bible. It's available now. The return of Sierra Leone. We got Sierra Leone coming back after the Breeders' Cup Classic. First start since that race. Of course, going up against Hall of Fame might be an interesting race for a return. But, this is a big, the stars are starting to come back, Halterman. Sierra Leone back. Obviously, we talk about how good this is for Yokes / Derby. So, yeah, Spirit of St. Louis in the turf race might be pretty tough to beat as well. So some potential, not either potential stars or already stars making their returns back to the track on Saturday. But all right, so the Louisiana Derby. We both like whatever order you want, but John Hancock and Caldera, those are our two very clear horses, I would say, you and I. What are you looking at for the future? So whether it's John Hancock, whether it's Caldera, how serious, and again, it's hard to say because you got to wait to see what the performance was like. But assuming one or both run very well, how serious are you taking these moving forward into the Derby?
Yeah, it's a really tough question for this race specifically, and really the Jeff Ruby as well that we'll talk about. So, I mean, you go into some of these races, it's like, okay, we've got sovereignty, we've got journalism, we've got, maybe Barnes / Cornucopia, and who knows where they show up. But you've got horses where it's like, okay, they just have to win. It's like turnkey. Okay, we're on track. These are like, I don't know the capability level of these horses just yet. John Hancock and Caldera, neither one of them have ran a race fast enough yet that makes me think I'm going to play them in the Derby. However, they should run better here if they're going to kind of develop and be Derby horses than they have yet. So I would say they're like whoever wins is a fringe top 5 horse with the out of this race might suck and now they're a fringe top 10, or this race may surprise and maybe they're into the top 5.
I think it's fair to, like, whoever wins, say it's John Hancock, it's fair to, say your next top 5 to have him rank 5th,
Yeah.
With the idea being like, well, we have a bunch of preps coming, right? He probably get knocked out of it, but you just won the Louisiana Derby. You should probably deserve to be ranked fairly high. Part of me hopes that Caldera runs like really well but not quite good enough to beat John Hancock, and then maybe we get a better price in the Derby.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like the wise guy horse underneath. He would be for sure if he ran another good second. But
Yeah.
all right, I like both of those horses. I think 2.5 is the number I would go. I'd go under, right? 2.5. Derby starters.
I think Bilt's got a shot. He's just got to hit the board. The winner's going. I might go over. I might go 3 on this one.
Well, let's talk about one other one because, got a chunk of gold, as Rodney keeps asking about. Finished second, beating 10 lengths to Magnitude in that Risen Star race. Obviously, Magnitude was unbelievable that day. Came back. I think he was 43-1 in the race. Chunk of gold was that day. Finished second to Baby Max in the race prior at Turfway Park. Baby Max came back to lose. Next out, although didn't run terrible. I would be hesitant, Roddy, because I think the number is so high in that last race because of Magnitude.
Yep.
So I like, you gotta be careful sometimes when those horses are like, yeah, I got a 92 buyer in that race, but he was beating 10 links,
Yep.
It's tough to kind of me get super excited about the horse.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think you do sometimes have to be under, have to kind of, how did they earn it versus just the number? And I think you're right. And what happens, like you said, when a Magnitude runs off the screen, well, all these horses have to, that has to match up from a time standpoint and a mathematical standpoint, I should say. So I don't hate him. I thought he was decent in that race.
I agree. And I don't hate. Again, Baby Max ran well that next start. And it's worth noting that Chunk of Gold beat Built that day in the Risen Star as well. So it's like, do I think he can win this race? I'd be pretty surprised, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
If he finished third, if he finished second, even one of these John Hancock or Caldera really don't show up and you don't really trust Built, like, sure, I don't think it's impossible. And maybe he's a way to juice up an exacta or a trifecta over Built, let's just say, you know what I mean? So I think he's worth playing at the right price, and he'll probably be a right price.
Yep, I think it's a good way to put it. A second, third, something like that. I could see. Kind of got to, again, like most of them, this is another kind of proving ground for him. Okay, Magnitude's not here. You're up against horses. Some of them you beat. You got some new ones, but so you beat all the rest of them. Now can you do it again? Let's see what happens. I don't hate him, but I did not have him on top. I really didn't think about putting him on top. But we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, all right. I've got Caldera to win. You have John Hancock. All right, time for Rapid Fire, presented by the Louisiana Derby Betting Bible, now available over at racingdudes.com. All you have to do, guys, is click this button here, get Racing Dudes Premium on the top right corner. Scroll down, $29.95. You can add this to your cart. It is available right now. It includes every single race on the card, all 12 races on the Louisiana Derby card, as well as the Jeff Ruby, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So you get our bets, exactly how we're betting every race, as well as top 4 picks for everybody over at racingdudes.com, including John White, his top 4. He's gotten to the point where he's asking us now. He's like, hey, do you need my picks this week? I'm like, yep, we do. So he's loving it, and we're loving having him on there. So make sure you go get the Betting Bible. Again, this is a great, great time. I wanted to pull this up here, this article, because I added a little description on this article of everything that's coming up, and really look at the. You got the Jeff Ruby and the Louisiana Derby this weekend. You got the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby. These are betting Bibles, by the way, that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The next 3 weekends, the Bluegrass Betting Bible, as well as the Wood and the San Diego Derby included in that. The Lexington after that, and then of course the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont. So you've got 7 Bibles coming up in the next 6 or I guess not 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So you get all these absolutely for free if you are a premium subscriber. So anything as low as $70 a month gets you access to every pick every day, at every track, but it also gets you access to any of these betting Bibles over at racingdudes.com. So make sure you check them out at the website. Again, I was on the wrong screen. I was on my other one. But here you go. Here's the list. So again, all those are absolutely for free if you are a premium subscriber. So head on over to racingdudes.com right now and go get your hands on that. It is available right now. All right, let's go to the race prior, Halterman. This is race number 11. This is the Fastest Tipton Fairgrounds Oaks, grade 2, 400K. 116 miles for the fillies this time, field of 9. And again, 150, 25, 15, 10 for your top 5 finishers, all going to the Kentucky Oaks. And like I mentioned earlier, good cheer for Brad Cox. This could be a day for Brad Cox. Good cheer for Brad Cox. Has not lost a race. Heads into this race at 4-5. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really tough to see her losing in this spot. She's beaten a couple of them that are already in this race. So, there's that. She's just awfully tough. And not only is she winning, she's just destroying fields. Really good race last time out. I mean, I guess Ahava, the 3-horse, would be the only one that you might think, well, this is an up-and-comer. She hasn't faced her yet. We don't really know what she is. She did run very, very well last time out in her debut race, but it was a 6-furlong effort. Now we're going to a mile and 16th. And like I said, we got one race, and now we're going to this. I had to just go good cheer and play the chalk here. It just felt like she's just too tough for the spot. And again, she's just dominating horses. It's not close. So yeah, give me a good cheer.
She's won by she's ran 5 times. She's 5 for 5 her lifetime. She debuted, won by 8 1/4. She then next in allowance won by 17. That was at Churchill. Then she won by almost 5 in the Rags to Riches at Churchill. The Goldenrod, she won by 2.5. Then she made her 3-year-old debut back in February in the Rachel and won by 6 1/4. like you said, hasn't sniffed getting beat. I was also never she runs like that race that you want to see from a contender. She doesn't need the lead. She stalks it and then she pounces and it's over. It's tough, man. It's tough to imagine her getting beat here. If she gets beat, and by the way, like every race has been, well, other than her debut was at a mile. Every race of those have been at a mile 16th. I mean, this is a horse that Godolphin and Brad and whoever, like, they have honed in on what she wants to do. The only way she gets beat here is if something happens, just plain and simple, doesn't show up. And there's no way to foresee it, right? Sure, it could happen. It's horse racing. The only caveat I would have is, and you kind of mentioned it, is Ahava, just because again the unknown. Also, she has speed and lots of it, so you could maybe make a case hey, maybe Good Cheer just can't catch her. She kind of gets out to the lead and never looks back. That seems unlikely because she's certainly faced fast horses before. But that's kind of the scenario that I could see that could potentially, if you're dreaming up a scenario, that's the one, right?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it's such a tough task. But yes, I mean, that's kind of the thought process of maybe this horse is just super good. She looked really good on debut. Let's throw that out there. She was pretty damn good. But at the same time, this is a whole nother challenge. And it's a lot really, really quick. If she wins, talking about the 3, horses, we say she's pretty darn good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I would venture to say that Good Cheer gonna, and again, it's always tough with this race or really the Louisiana Derby, because you do have more preps after that. Makes it tricky to kind of, sometimes they lose a little bit of their steam. Having said that, Good Cheer, I think, is probably your Oaks' favorite with another win here. I mean, I don't know how there's another. I mean, the horse to be going into the Kentucky Oaks 6 for 6, and assuming she wins like she's been winning, never getting close to getting beat. So,
yes,
I would have a hard time picking against her. 2, not seeing her as the favorite. So, Good Cheer looks like a legit contender. We both like her to win the Fairgrounds Oaks. All right, let's head on over to Turfway. So Turfway Park has become a little bit more, used to be like Turfway is whatever, but now, we're starting to see some horses that run through this race and are somewhat decent, right? Afterwards. So, but let's first talk about the Bourbonette. The Bourbonette is race number 11 on the card. It's worth 50 points. 50, 25, 15, 10, 5 for your top 5 finishers. This is, of course, for the Kentucky Oaks. For the fillies, 1 and 1/16 miles. Field of 12 with a couple also eligibles. I mean, really, 3-1 on White Rocks, who just went out and got like 10, 12 lengths ahead of everybody the last race, and they couldn't catch her. But there's a few also, kind of new shooters that look interesting. I admit at 9-2. I think that horse is the biggest threat. Something about her, ran well as well last time at 5-1. Resolve at 8-1. Where are you going here?
Yeah, look, I hate to say it, but I think White Rocks is the one to beat. The race 2 back over the surface, an easy win going a mile, and then winning the local prep for this pretty easily. Horse has a lot of speed. Horse is a very good trainer, proven here at Turfway to be pretty darn good. The speed figures I look at, she's all just a little bit better. And you said it, like, you get that far ahead. That was crazy last time out, but really her best figure came 2 back, at least as far as time form goes, when she was just a length and a half ahead and kind of ran away from them. So I don't necessarily think she needs to get 8 lengths ahead to win here. I think she just needs to get towards the front. Got to break well from the outside post. That's a little bit of a worry, but I kind of started to look at some of the other ones, and I don't know. I don't love much in here. I think she's just a little bit better than this group.
Yeah, I like her quite a bit. Although part of me is like, well, they're not going to let her get that kind of race again, So there's that, and they were certainly getting closer. When I watched that race, I was like, okay, I'm going to assume that they're not going to let that happen again. Now, let me take one of these horses that was second or third to her, and that's Admit and Something About Her. When you kind of look at they're after the race and the kind of the way they ran out, I liked the 3 Admit quite a bit. The way that horse looked, kind of after the wire. So this is a horse before the Cincinnati Trophy race had won multiple races in a row. Those were at a mile. Now the sire is Blame out of a Warfront dam. I think this horse will stretch out a little bit longer as we're going here, and so give me this a little more distance for Admit, and I think that will do the trick. So this horse is 9-2. I think it's fair number. I also don't hate the 1 Resolve. This is a turf horse, obviously trying the synthetic, which works out well quite a bit coming from Santa Anita. But give me the 3 Admit. I don't honestly. This race hasn't done a lot in terms of the Oaks like it has with the Derby,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily love much in here moving forward, but I'm going to take the 3 to I guess, quote unquote, upset the Bourbonette Oaks. All right, last up here, let's go to race number 12 on the card, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, grade 3, $777,000. I don't know, guys. I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. 1 1/8 miles on the all-weather track for 3-year-olds. Again, 100-point race, guys. So it's a 100-point race, 50, 25, 15, 10. So again, just like the Risen Star, the Louisiana Derby, hey, 1-2 going in. And it used to be able to say, like, well, that's a joke. But, you look back at 2 Phils, who damn near won the Derby. Rich Strike, who didn't win this race, but we know what he did after. So the race is starting to be more formful than it kind of used to be, kind of when you kind of say, well, whatever, it's synthetic, doesn't matter. So we got 3-1 on Poster, 7-2 on California Burrito. Baby Max, who aforementioned Baby Max, at 5-1, another 5-1 on Maximum Promise for Kenny McPeak. Those are your main shooters. Where are you going, man?
Yeah, and don't forget Seize the Gray, who was in this race last year and then went on to win the Preakness and the Pat Day Mile. So it's crazy what this race has kind of produced. I got 1 short price and 1 long shot I'll talk about here. I do like the number 9 Poster on top. I just feel like they found a really, really perfect spot for him. Obviously 2 for 2 on the turf to synthetic. Everybody knows that plays fairly well. So I think he'll be okay with the surface. Won the rims in, but it wasn't that impressive. And really, the Sam F. Davis, when he was third, you kind of were like, oh, boy, I knew he wasn't very good. But then you kind of look back at that race now, and you're like, well, maybe he ran a little bit better than what we thought. John Hancock and One Almighty were able to beat him that day. But, he was making up a little bit of ground on him in the stretch. And I think, getting more pace today, it should really help Poster. So I do like Poster. I will say, though, I almost picked number 2, Charlie's to Blame, at 15-1 on top. I'll talk about him for a second. You know, turf horse, right? Hasn't ran on the synthetic yet, but really good 2 races back at Del Mar over the turf, and then really good in a stakes race over the turf last time out at Gulfstream Park to get the job done. So that Atkins Joy was not an easy race. He was able to win it. So he's got talent. If he takes to this surface, I think he could be tough.
All right. So I was just looking while you're talking. Technically, this is the first 100-point race because this does go off prior or goes off before at 6:25 Eastern time, whereas the Louisiana Derby goes off at 6:42.
There you go.
So the reason I kind of was looking at it, I was like, well, hey, like if let's say John Hancock goes and rolls in the Louisiana Derby, well, then you're talking, well, with Poster, you're saying, well, he got beat by the Louisiana Derby winner and he got beat by Owen Almighty, who looked awesome in his next start.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're going to flip it around and say, well, if Poster wins here, Owen Almighty obviously came back and rolled. Then what does that tell you about John Hancock, right?
Right.
And so I think that's another thing to kind of watch in this race. It could really flatter John Hancock, because again, John Hancock beat Owen Almighty, who dusted him in this next start. And if Poster were to run well here, then I would think it would make a strong case for John Hancock in the Louisiana Derby. But so this race will go off first. Listen, I'm going to go, I hate the horse's name, but I'm going to go number 3, California Burrito. This is a horse that's has ran really well here on the synthetic. Once they've switched over to the synthetic, this horse started on dirt and really ran well on dirt. It wasn't, the first debut was not good, but when they cut the horse in class a little bit, this horse beat Instant Replay, who's in the Louisiana Derby, and then got second to Magnitude. And of course, we know what Magnitude did, after that next start, and so not a bad horse on the dirt. Switched to synthetic. It just really has taken off. And I thought Baby Max had every kind of reason to beat him last out, and he couldn't get by him. California Burrito kind of held him off. And so I'm going to stick with a hot hand. I like California Burrito here. Not a ton. But I do think Halterman, and you can debate this with me if you want, but I do think this race, whoever wins this, might run okay. Think about 2 Phils, and he was a horse that didn't run. He hadn't ran terrible on dirt, right?
Yeah, right.
And then he switched to the synthetic, obviously ran very well, and then back to dirt, and it was you know what I mean? It was fine. He almost won the Derby. Yeah. And a California Burrito there's other horses in here, examples like that. But California Burrito, a horse on dirt, had ran well on dirt, switched to the synthetic, ran better. Who's to say if he runs well here and wins? He might be a presence in the Derby. I don't know how much of one, but I think he is worthy of being in the race. Whereas a lot of years I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I feel like, we had Animal Kingdom and then we had a whole long drought. And then now it's back to this being pretty productive. And yeah, look, I don't know what we're going to get. This is a total mixed bag. The one thing I'll tell you, when the year 2 Phils won it, you had that was a different horse. And you're like, man, maybe he's just getting better. Where the other years, they kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, if you would have told me after that race, hey, Seize the Gray is going to win the Pat Day and the Preakness off of this, I would have said, yeah, okay. If you would have told me Rich Strike would have won the Derby off of this, I'd say, yeah, okay. But 2 Phils, yeah, I would buy it. So it's a mixed bag. We're going to have to see how this kind of shapes up. So it'll be very interesting to see. I am never, ever going to just dismiss this race. I can tell you that. But I'm on the fence about what will actually happen.
But you remember, even the 2 Phils situation was tricky because even though we kind of thought that, we still didn't know for sure if the horse just really liked the synthetic, right? Yeah. Because the horse had ran okay on dirt, not great, switched to synthetic and ran incredible. And so you kind of wondered, did that synthetic move him up, or is he just a horse getting better? And so it was easy, obviously, after the fact, just to say, no, he just was getting better. But a horse like California Burrito in this case, they have to change the horse's name. I mean, really, like it just cannot take. Like I'm a big a believer in like good horses have good names, right? And California Burrito ain't one of them. But like a horse, like he ran well on dirt and then ran well on synthetic, and so it just seems like a good horse versus a horse that's gotten dramatically better, although he has on synthetic. So I don't know. I maybe I'm putting now too much stock into it based on the recency of this race, but I do think this is a race that's becoming more and more kind of like legit,
Yep.
And normally I would shit all over this race for saying it's a 100-point race. That's insane. Like, how can you make this race the same value as the Louisiana Derby and all these other 100-point races? But can't really argue it, not anymore.
No. As soon as Rich Strike won it, it's like, okay, gotta move it up.
And Rich Strike finished third or second?
I think he may even been fourth in this one. I can't remember. He was third or fourth. He was third in one and fourth in the other as far as the preps here, but I can't remember which one was which. Yeah.
That was 21.
21. Yep. I think he may have been fourth here.
But no, that wasn't 21. That was 22.
Well,
Tis the Bomb. It's 2000. Tis the Bomb won the race. Rich Strike was third. 24 was second.
Okay. So he was
2022.
third in that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He was also 26-1 in this race. Rich Strike was.
I don't think Tis the Bomb won another race until, gosh, I want to say it was like a claimer maybe at Gulfstream. I don't know that for sure. I can't say that, but it was a long time before he won again. So yeah, it's crazy how it works out. And that's like I remember people go, Rich Strike or Mind That Bird, which was more of a shock. I actually did a video on it, and it's like, oh, Rich Strike by 100 times was more surprising than Mind That Bird.
Yep.
There was, and people, were all over the YouTube. I told you guys, and it's like nobody told us anything before the race was ran. And two, if you picked Rich Strike to win that race that day, and you had like logical reasons, I tip my hat, I guess, because I sure couldn't say. I mean, that I don't think I can comfortably say I don't think I'll ever be more shocked at a Derby my entire life. Really, seriously, I could say that. Like, and it held up because he just didn't do a whole lot after either.
So fun fact, we were there. We were on the wire, and we had seen great performances, right? At the Derby live, and and there's a picture of our whole group after the race, like because we like with Paul and all those guys, and you could tell our faces. If you go back and look at the picture, we're just like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what? Where are we? Like, because I'll never forget. For one, let's just put this into perspective. When we were on the airplane going or driving, I can't remember if we flew or drove, but Rich Strike wasn't even in the race,
right?
Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and like he didn't even make the race until Thursday or Friday, and then when he's coming down, of course you're live, so it's hard. You can't really, hear the announcer and the commentating. So
yeah,
it was. I remember thinking it was a 2, and I don't remember who the 2 was, but it was a horse that at least was still somewhat shocking. But it was like, wow, that's so. I can't remember who it was.
The 2 was a Doug O'Neill horse.
Yeah.
The name escapes me now. Yeah.
And you're like, I cannot believe he wanted. Like, that's not him. That's Rich Strike. That's 22 or 21. Yeah, 21. It was the 2 was Happy Jack.
Happy Jack.
I think I yelled, "That's Happy Jack!" Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just, and he was such a surprise that I was just kind of looking, because I remember in our official wagering guide at that time, it was the wagering guide, not the betting Bible.
Right.
He wasn't even in it.
Well, we had a conversation when he drew in. And we were like, should we put him in? I was like, well, I'll just write he's a toss. So, I mean, we can, but it's not going to help anybody,
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't even make the list because he
Yeah.
wasn't in the race.
A couple people emailed and it was like, I can't believe you didn't have him in the Bible. I was like, I would have wrote he's a toss. Would that have helped you played him? Like I wasn't ever going to,
Yeah, that year we did like basically based on their ranks, or not their ranks, but the amount of points they had going in. We did like the horse capsules, we called them, and then we went through and did all 20, stopped at 20, So he didn't even have a horse capsule. So and you looking back, you're like, even knowing what I know now, I'm like, I still wouldn't have done it, like,
no, that's the thing. I just you could have ran it 100 times, and I think we saw the one time he would have won it. I mean, he got an amazing pace, and he got just a tremendous trip/ride.
Yep.
And he was running, and Epicenter and Zandon, they made moves, or big moves, but they made him a little early, and they were starting to get tired, and he wasn't. And he went and got him.
The only people that were is more pissed about Rich Strike winning that race is a guy named Steve Asmussen.
Yeah, I mean,
who had the horse that year, and just bad luck / maybe got a little tired in the Triple Crown, but just both those races just couldn't get it done.
I'll never forget thinking I'm going to see Steve Asmussen's first Kentucky Derby. I'm such a big Asmussen fan. He's one of the reasons I got into the game, because he trained curling when I got into it. And when Epicenter turned for home and kind of was starting to, you could tell he was really moving, I was saying to myself, this is going to be special. Like, I'm so excited. I'm going to see Asmussen's first Derby. This is great, because he looked home, and then Zandon came up, but then he started to fight him off, and I'm like, man, he's still going to win, and it's going to be so cool. And then that horse, quote unquote, that horse, I didn't know who it was either. I thought it was Happy Jack that was coming up the inside. I thought, oh my God, he's going to get beat, because you could tell he wasn't going to hold him off. And so I went to like the little press scrum with Asmussen, and I expected just to see this absolutely down, dejected human being. I'll never forget how classy he was after that. He took that so well, because he got his heart ripped out that day. This guy's won every race out there. He's the winningest trainer of all time. He's ever won the Derby. And he absolutely had to have felt, it had to be the worst feeling he's ever felt. And he was so classy about it. And again, it wasn't Baffert or Chad Brown, or, it wasn't like if Zandon beats him even, it's like, well, you tip your hat. Zandon was damn good. He won the Bluegrass. To get your heart ripped out like that, it just had to feel just disgusting, but he was classy about it.
Dude, it was, I mean, just, do I have it? I think I have it, actually. Oh, that's a different race. I have the picture I was going to put up on the screen. It was, I remember I got so much heat because right after the race, I was obviously hot as one would be, and saying something like that's like the worst result in Kentucky Derby history or something, or the biggest joke of a horse to win. I don't know how I said it. And man, it caught fire on TikTok or on Twitter. They hated me. I was like, then you look back and it's like, name a race that he won after. Like, he was not a good horse, but that happened to win that day.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it is what it is. I remember I was just like, I didn't even, like, sometimes you lose the Derby and you think about it and you think, oh man, what we do wrong? This one was just like, I was never, ever, ever going to pick that horse. So, and really, to be quite honest, in a much, much, much lower scale, I really felt that way about Mage and Mystic Dan just a little bit. It's just like, I wasn't going to pick them, but obviously much less surprising and easier to get to for sure.
So that was a picture I took.
Yeah.
While this is where we were sitting or standing on the rail. And it's like, cause this is a big result. And then, let's see if I got the next one here. Hang on. And then our after words. Although I'll admit, I think we held together pretty well there.
Yeah, it doesn't look weird.
Samich does not look happy, but
Samich was feeling it that day.
I don't know if Samich knows who won the race at that point.
He was taking all those and sneaking them out. Remember that he had those White Claws all like in his jacket and shit. It was
I
great.
believe that was the last year they did they let the press down below where you got the free drinks all day too.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I think the racing dudes ruined that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, that was the after, we'll call it after Rich Strike.
Like I said, that one really didn't bother me much because it's
No.
just like, yeah, I can't, what are you gonna do? And that's the thing, like it's that's racing. That'll happen once a week somewhere, where an improbable horse wins. You just like, I don't know. Never could have got to that one.
Yeah, that one honestly didn't. I mean, the only thing I can't remember what year was that. Or I mean, who would I have picked that day?
Taba would have been your pick.
Was that Taba year?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was my pick. Yeah. And I remember, because like if you picked Epicenter, that's when you're sick, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're like, you did everything right, and yet you still lost.
Yep.
And so May like it missing like the results that the last several years have not been. They've been annoying, but they haven't like made you lose sleep because you're like, I'm never picking Rich Strike. I'm never picking Mage. I mean, some people did, and that one wasn't as shocking. But for me personally, I wasn't going to pick Mage, and I was never picking Mystic Dan. So some of those times, like you said, like you just have to be like, well, it happens, and move on.
Last year was one that did piss me off.
Not because of Mystic Dan winning, but because who didn't win.
Right. Because last year, that horse should have won. And if that horse was like he was over the summer and fall, he would have dusted that group. Yeah. I feel very confident saying that because he did dust those horses when he got right. And we were a race too soon. The Jim Dandy, the Travers, listen, his Breeders' Cup Classic was a massive race. There's no shame in finishing second after what he did that day. I'm telling you, he was the best horse and he lost that day. And that pisses you off that he didn't even try, but you knew it was possible. So you couldn't get just like crazy angry, but the way it played out, it's like, no, you were right. Like he was the best horse in that group, but you were wrong. He hadn't figured it out yet. And if you back Sierra Leone, you had to feel the same way. He won the Classic. Like even his races he lost going forward, he always ran well. He should have won that day, and he was the best horse that day. He ended up being the 3-year-old of the year, or he was the best horse in the crop, but he wasn't the best horse that day. And so that's what makes this game the most difficult game of all to play.
No, I was the same with you. I had Fierceness picked, but in the betting Bible, I had Exactas. I mean, I had Sierra Leone second.
Yep.
I had Catching Freedom's third, and I had Forever Young fourth. I had the try. I had the Exacta because the way I played it all, I had everything hit if Mystic Dan's not in the final three. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So even with that's why I was so annoyed after the race, not because Mystic Dan won, but not because Fierceness lost and ran the way he did. Because the way I structured the bets was, hey, if he doesn't win, I should be like, I like these other ways to get there, and it's like, oh, I did everything right. And this horse, Mystic Dan, won. So frustrating.
Yeah, I think you said it better than I did. It's like I did structure things to where it's like, because we knew Fierceness might not show up, and we had other stuff with the 2, 3, 4 runners. And some years after the Derby, you're like, well, I wasn't really close, but that's when it's like, yeah, you were there, like you had a big shot, and they just couldn't get by Mystic Dan. And again, it's another Derby winner where he does nothing after, and you're just like, how did that happen? He was not even close to the best horse in this crop. He wasn't even in the top 5. He may not even been in the top 10, and yet he won that race that day.
The most frustrating thing in horse racing is not like, it's not when your horse loses. It's when you successfully beat a favorite or beat even though I picked Fierceness, I had wet structures of different bets that incorporated him losing, and It's when you correctly you're correct about the horse not winning and have everything right, and it's some other horse gets you.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, hey, I was right. I had the right horses. I had all 4 horses in the top 4. This idiot horse came and got third or won. That's the most frustrating thing is when you are right and wrong at the exact same time. And by the way, very, very wrong at the right time, at the wrong time,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That happened like 2 weeks ago in a big race. I can't remember. I hated the favorite. I don't remember a horse now, and I beat the favorite, but I didn't have. It was God. It was a race at Oaklawn. It was a stake. It wasn't a very big stakes, but I didn't like the favorite, and I ran second and third behind like a 20-1 shot, and the favorite is like fifth. It's like, yeah, that's great. Identified. Here's a way you can make money. My horses are running fine. Here comes one up the rail at 20-1.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mental game, man. It is tough, and you got to be mentally tough. If you're not, it's going to swallow you up. It's just that simple. I can't put it any more bluntly than that.
You got to have a short memory.
You absolutely have to short memory, and once a race is over, it's over. You have to be that way, or you're never
win or lose.
Successful. Yeah.
How many times do you think you hit a couple good bets or a good streak, and you're like, I can't miss, and then all of a sudden, you're way wrong. So it's you're always good as your last bet. That's for sure. Yeah, Kevin, Nisos has been working a lot. I don't really know. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it with Nisos.
Sure, yeah.
Let's see if he can pull 2 races in a row together.
I hope he comes back because I think he's really good. But
I mean, he's a hell of a. I mean, it's a big if, but if he can, Kevin B, would you rather? We'll put this question out there for anybody in the chat, and I'll ask you as well. Would you rather? It kind of goes like the same as in the sports bet or anything like that. Like, would you rather lose? It's like with the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Like they got annihilated, so it was over quickly. And you're like, so would you rather in a horse race? Would you rather lose at the wire and have that brutal like heart? You lost, or a fierceness in the Derby where hey, this is not happening today. He's not winning. I can get over it right now.
Well, I think my answer and yours is kind of maybe different from the rest of the general public. I would rather my horse be in it because there's nothing more embarrassing than telling people, here's who I pick at the Derby, and he runs 14th, right?
Yeah.
If I would have picked Sierra Leone last year, I mean, yeah, it's a heartbreaking loss, but at least it's not embarrassing for me, So yeah, I think now, if I'm your Super Bowl example, I'd rather get my ass beat than lose at the last. Yeah.
No, I completely agree because in our game, I always try to explain to people that even aren't in racing, it's like it's not like sports betting where you can be right, like you're the right or wrong, where there is a line where you can be wrong and right at the same time, and whether how you structured your bets. And you also you understand it's horse racing, so if your horse gets nailed at the wire and your horse did everything right but win, you're just like, well, I mean, shit, I had the right horse. I just, like if you pick Sierra Leone last year in the Derby, you say, well, I mean, what more? I mean, what more could I do? This horse was right there. If you pick Tapage Rice, then you want to jump off the nearest bridge. And so to me, I would much rather lose at the wire.
Yep.
Although I'd rather not lose at all. If we're just being honest.
Yeah, I mean, the year I picked Taba, I was dumb. I wanted to pick Epicenter, and even though Epicenter lost, I really, really wish I would have picked him because I would have felt a lot better about it.
Totally. One more question I have for you, and I called you yesterday just over business type stuff, and we ended up talking for like 45 minutes about the Derby, and that, I mean, off air, obviously, but that just goes to show you guys, like, we're always talking about the Derby and or horse racing for that matter. But we got to talking about this Baffert scenario, and I wanted to at least mention it now because we'll probably know. Obviously, we will know, right, by this time next week because, obviously the Arkansas Derby. But the Baffert situation right now is just so curious, I guess, is a good way to put it, because you've got Citizen Bull, you've got Barnes, you've got Mad Cat Road, you've got Rodriguez, you've got Gaming, and you've got Cornucopian. Those are kind of your biggest horses that he's got right now. Where are they all going? Who's going where? Is Cornucopian? Cornucopian was a late addition to the Arkansas Derby nominations. Does that mean he's going there now? We've talked about this a lot, that we didn't really think that he would push that horse to get to the Derby, given that he's got so many other horses, and kind of the stats winning your third race in that kind of race is almost impossible. But it's Bob Baffert. So what do you how are you feeling about all this?
I don't really know. I would say, let's put Cornucopian aside. Say if he wasn't aiming for these last round of preps, I kind of feel like it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other where you send them. If you leave one out there in California, yeah, journalism might beat him, but you're probably going to get second. Arkansas, you're probably going to go win that thing. The Bluegrass, depending on who you send, you're going to look pretty good. Like, you probably got one that can fit the Florida Derby okay. But then there's Cornucopian. And yeah, that news of he's a late nomination for the Arkansas Derby. If he's running there, you're not running Barnes there as well. So then it gets weird. Okay, where's he going? If Cornucopian does actually go to the Arkansas Derby, which you're a late nomination, you'd think that's a pretty good possibility he's going to run there. It's not for sure. Then what? And that's what makes it weird, because if he takes up that race where you thought Barnes was going to be this whole time, where does Barnes go? Do they run 2 in California that are serious? Like, what do you do? It's going to be very interesting. And plus, he's playing the game now of, yeah, this horse is going here, 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 and then the entries come out and it's a different horse. So you can't really trust what he's saying either. So we'll just know when the entries come out. I really don't have any insight right now of what's going to happen.
Yeah, you made a good point. It's like, why would he you have to pay to get entered? Why would they enter Cornucopian late if just for shits, unless it's like a backup plan if like Barnes doesn't make it or something. I don't know, but and the other thing too that you and I talked about yesterday was like, well, what happens if, let's say, and I think this is what they should do, to be fair, but let's say Cornucopian is like, this is like, okay, Preakness, let's work our way backwards from the Preakness. This is like, he's going to be our Preakness horse. He cannot lose the Preakness. Oh, by the way, Barnes or Citizen Bull wins the Derby. So then what? You're not going to run them against. You're not going to run Cornucopian against your horse that just won the Derby. And so, because it's not like the other Baffert horses are shit. I mean, they could one or two of those could win the Derby. So then what do you do? So it makes it. I don't know. It's something to think about. I don't think they're going to run both in the Preakness if one of them wins the Derby.
Let me ask you this, and I'm talking about talent, just pure talent. Who's the best Baffert right now?
Only based on talent and not on like projected distance, how all that stuff. I think the best talent is Cornucopian.
I do too, and I think that's the thing that's throwing a monkey wrench into it, right?
I am not a believer in him going long, but I'd not say he can't get it. I don't know that he's that. He just doesn't look like a horse that's going to carry himself 12 furlongs, but I don't know.
I can't disagree.
But we don't know either. That's
I kind of view him and Barnes as the same. I'm not sure about long, but I'm not totally sure they can't either.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. But I think he causes a little bit of a complication. Because again, if you're going to say, you know what, we're going to take Cornucopian to the Lexington and then we're going to go Preakness or Belmont or whatever, then it's kind of the path. Yeah, he may flip-flop horses here or there, but it's the same idea with all these horses. But him being in the mix of these last preps outside the Lexington, talking about the big preps, the 100-point preps, that throws a monkey wrench into everything. And that changes your plans. And if he is involved, Arkansas Derby, Bluegrass, Florida, even Santa Anita, that tells me they think this horse is really, really good, like really good. Yeah. So if you see him entered, that'll be Saturday. They'll enter for the Arkansas Derby next week, or is it Saturday or Sunday? I can't remember. But if you see him entered in Arkansas, I think that's pretty scary that they really, really like him.
Yeah. I mean, I told you yesterday, I said, well, if he does enter if he does enter Cornucopian in a prep, that tells me everything I need to know. That he's the best. He is the best Baffert, and maybe even go as far as saying he's the only horse that I would feel good about possibly beating Journalism.
Yeah.
Fair. That's a lot to say about a horse that's only ran once. It also is worth noting that I was telling you yesterday, because I saw the press release from Oaklawn saying that race from Cornucopian was the fastest 6 furlong maiden special weight for a 3-year-old of all time at Oaklawn Park. Like, it was the fastest one ever. Yeah. Almost like, what was it, like 109 flat. Like, it was just blazing fast. So the horse obviously is super talented, but I don't know. Like, the other aspect of it all is that the only horse out of all those I mentioned that actually has points to get in is Citizen Bull.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the only one that, like, if the Derby was ran tomorrow, would be in, because he's the only one. So, like, like, a lot of times it's like, well, hey, like, they won this race and this race, so, like, win or not, they're in. No, like, so that's the other part. Not only is he going to find these right spots for him, it's got to be like, or where they going, but it's got to be like the right spot, because they got to get points to win.
Well, and all he does is win. He's the 2-year-old champion. Yeah. All he does is win. He has never lost around 2 turns. And from the very start of the year through right now, nobody gives a shit, I feel like, about him. He's just like, oh yeah, there's that other one out there. And yeah, like,
he just ran enough.
Like, I mean, to me, like, I was like the only person ranking him number 1. I still have him 2, because it's like, what's he done wrong? So his last prep will be really interesting. I don't know, but people seem to have him wrote off, but I still kind of have hope for him, at least. He's not bad. And he doesn't lose. So there's 2 good things right there.
And he's trained by Bob Baffert. That helps too. I mean, I asked you yesterday, I said, hey, if I told you, like, hey, you can't pick Journalism, like, he's not available, you can't pick him. If the Derby was ran this weekend, who would you pick to win? And who'd you say?
I said Citizen Bull.
And I said, I agree. And so, I mean, I just because it's like, well, what, like you just said, what more do you want him to do?
Yeah.
All he does is win.
Yep.
So I think, I mean, if they ran, like, yeah, Davey, like, getaway card, it would be in, but, like, I'm not counting him, because there's no way he should be in.
I'll tell you this about Badicott Road, who I don't think is very good, but if I heard Florida Derby, I don't know if that's a pipe dream or if that's actually, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it, type of thing. But say he shows up in Florida around the Florida Derby, why can't he run second and be in the Kentucky Derby, or third and be in? I think he will. I think Badicott Road's in the Derby. Should he be? Is he going to even be a factor? Probably not. But you're telling me he can't finish second or third behind Sovereignty and whoever? I think he can.
Well, he's sitting at 31 points, which is not going to be enough.
No.
At very best, it's going to be a bubble. So he's definitely got to do something to get points, because, I mean, you got to think about after this weekend, there's going to be 4 horses ahead of him, 4 more horses ahead of him. So that puts him at 15, and another 2 couple preps. There's, you know what I mean? So that list goes down, the more 50 and 100 point getters that are out there. So he's going to be bubble horse like right now. Like, obviously any points would help him, but I mean, Bob Baffert certainly could get 4 or 5 horses in the race, no problem. Depending on where he spots them. So
I think that's going to happen.
Part of me wants to keep Barnes out in Santa Anita, because, like I told you yesterday, it was like, hey, we don't know, you probably aren't going to beat Journalism, but you can finish second, and that's all you need. Versus, but I also agree with you saying, like, well, the Arkansas Derby, if he goes out to Arkansas, he should win. That, I mean, he can't be that bunch. Come on, or at least it's the very same scenario, finish second. So
yeah,
so either one of those spots is fine. I personally want to see Citizen Bull versus Journalism. I think that would tell us. So that would give us such a good picture headed into the Derby, in my opinion.
I think the other thing I've kind of thought about a little bit, and then we can kind of wrap it up, I guess, if you want, because I don't want to go on this all day, but that late nomination of Cornucopian, does that mean one of them that he might have thought for Arkansas might be a little banged up, hurt, something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Was the addition after they worked out?
I don't remember when the timing of it. I don't remember.
Because Cornucopian and Barnes worked out together. Was it yesterday? I think yesterday morning.
It was 2 days.
Or
The
maybe
days run together. I can't remember. Yeah.
And they worked out. They both put bullet figures, but you watched the workout. I mean, Cornucopian, I mean, I don't get a lot into workouts as far as how they look, but Cornucopian looked like, if you had to pick one, I would pick him based on their works. But you know, so I don't know. You know, I wouldn't say Barnes never has worked that impressively, but again, I don't put a lot of stock into that. But I do think, you know, I wonder if like that workout potentially got him to like, hey, we need it. Like he can go win Arkansas.
Yeah, Barnes, he gets a lot of crap for as good as he's done, but I will pick him in Arkansas most likely if he shows up. So I'm not trying to rag on Barnes, but he's not the prettiest mover, right? Like he's not just like a picture perfect mover. So I don't take Cornucopian outworked him or whatever. Well, Cornucopian is kind of flawless in his movements, and Barnes isn't really. So I get it, you know.
Yeah, Barnes is like kind of moves like a tank almost. Like he's a big, chunky looking horse, and he runs real low.
He's short he's like short and stocky. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that's why it's like I think he might be, you know, going a little shorter might be better. I don't know, but we'll find out, guys. I just wanted to bring up the Bradford situation because I do think it is extremely interesting as we at this juncture, as well as all the other prospects we got going in. You know, the sovereignties and obviously this weekend in the Louisiana Derby, and you know we have a ton of things to still unfold as we go into these last couple of weeks of preps. But listen, guys, that's got to be a wrap, because if we didn't, we could talk about the Derby all day long. We'll talk more next week as we get into the Arkansas Derby. Again, we'll know as soon as this weekend who's in that Arkansas Derby field, so we can at least start to paint a picture a little bit better after this weekend to know who's in that race, where they're going, and maybe get a little more clarity of who's going where. But again, make sure you stay tuned, and we'll announce that either on our Twitter or over on the website on our YouTube page here. Make sure you go to the free picks page over at racingnews.com. Click that Get Racing News Premium button and access the betting Bible. It is available right now for this weekend's Louisiana Derby card, the whole card, all 12 races, including the Jeff Ruby Stakes, exactly how we're playing that. John White's picks are also included in that as well. You can get it for free if you are a subscriber. We're on Twitter at Racing_News, Instagram, Facebook. You can find out episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our YouTube page. Go to any podcast platform you use, just search Blinkers Off. We're there. Again, go to YouTube, search Racing Dudes, hit that like notification bell, and subscribe if you guys don't mind. Halterman, any lasting final thoughts you want to leave the peeps as we head into? Well, it's into Thursday tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this weekend. These last 3 weekends, I'd even throw in the Lexington and make it 4. You know, they're the 4 of the best that we'll have all year. And then, all hands on deck to the Derby after that. But the lead up is almost as fun as the Derby for me. And we've had a good lead up so far, but now we really get going with these major races. And listen, this time 4 weeks from now, we'll have our Derby horse picked out and just hope that he doesn't get injured, right?
Don't put that on me. Listen, I hope we do. It doesn't feel like Derby at the moment because it's snowing right now here at the house. So
yeah, I
hate this weather right now. I don't know where you guys are at, if it's like, but this weather here in the Midwest, this really January to now has been absolutely insane.
Yeah,
like my roof feels like it's about to blow off, though, as windy as it is. And then it was 80 degrees a couple days ago. Now it's snowing, and it's supposed to get snow. Like I think supposedly like cover the ground potentially tonight.
Yeah,
it makes 0 sense. And it's going to be I think it's going to be 70s on this weekend. It makes 0 sense what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's unreal. And I'll say this: it's the worst wind I've ever felt living here. Now I'm sure other places have been like that before, but living here, never felt wind like that. It was awful for 2-3 straight days.
Dude, I got so like this December, I think is when I got them put in. Had some landscaping done, and like right out my window to kind of hide my from my neighbor's house, sort of like I got these like, I don't know, like the tall, skinny bushes, like real tall, like maybe 5-6 feet skinny, and they get bigger as we go. But like they were new in December, and so they're still fairly young. And because of the wind, every one of them is like I don't know, like that degrees maybe, like because of the wind, they're all like sideways, and they're staying in the ground. But I called the dude. I was like, hey, by the time it's like whenever this wind ends, like you might want to come over here and maybe straighten these bad boys out because it looks like shit. It's
crazy.
But yeah, the wind, it just constantly blows. So
yeah,
I don't know. But hopefully by the time Derby comes, it'll feel like Derby season. But yeah, I do feel good about this year. I think we're gonna see a little bit of knock on wood, a little bit of formful results. So I hope. Anyways, all right, guys. Until next time, we'll see you guys next week. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.